1. Introduction. RAWSEP View. The United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only. For home building and furniture building, for just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable, wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree, but it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM 2.5, and PM 2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM 2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut-down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM 2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lungs, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM 2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom, the eco-design wood stove, and international convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. RAWSEP View purple air PM 2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM 2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM 2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary. Episode 57 DGB March 31st, 2025. Musk gives out two $1 million payments to Wisconsin voters. In episode 57 DGB 1 World Stock sink as the Trump tariff threats weigh on confidence. 2. A Wisconsin Politics Musk gives out two $1 million payments to Wisconsin voters after state Supreme Court refused legal challenge. 3. A RAWSEP Brief Takes on the headlines. The New York Times March 30th, 2025. 4. A RAWSEP Brief Takes on the headlines. The Guardian March 30th, 2025. Main content. 1 World Stock sink as the Trump tariff threats weigh on confidence. Markets around the world tumbled as investors braced for a week of market turmoil. Stocks in Japan and Taiwan fell more than 4%. RAWSEP View Proof that Trump does not care about the inflation concerns of the average American voter. Some Trump apologists recently said the threat of tariffs, not tariffs themselves, is the Trump lever, but instead the uncertainty of Trump tariffs causes negative effects on the stock market. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The New York Times March 31st, 2025. Stocks around the world tumbled Monday as investors braced for a week of market tumult caused by the expected announcement of yet more tariffs by Trump on the biggest trading partners of America. Since taking office a little over 2 months ago, Trump has kept investors and companies guessing with a haphazard rollout of what he calls an America First trade policy. He has threatened, imposed, and in some cases then paused the start of new tariffs on goods coming into the United States. On Monday, stocks in Japan and Taiwan fell more than 4%, while share prices in South Korea were down 3%. The Nikkei 225 index in Japan fell into a correction, down 12% from its high in late December. Technology companies were hit hard. Chipmakers, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, SK, Hynix, Samsung. In Tokyo, Electron recorded declines tracking the Trump first 100 days. The Trump previous actions on North American tariffs. March 11th notified Canada that its citizens would need to register when crossing the border into the United States. March 11th walked back plans to double metal tariffs on Canada after escalating threats. March 6th suspended many of the tariffs imposed on Canada and Mexico. March 5th paused tariffs on cars from Canada and Mexico for a month. March 5th accused Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of Canada of imposing tariffs on the U.S. to stay in power. Earlier entries about North American tariffs. See every major action by the Trump administration. Losses in China were more muted. Hong Kong stocks dropped more than 1%, and those in mainland China were about 0.5% lower. Mainland stocks got some support from a report signaling that the export-led industrial sector of China continues to expand despite the Trump initial tariffs. Markets in Europe opened lower with the Stoxx 600 index falling about 1%. German automakers, which are particularly exposed to U.S. tariffs, extended recent losses. Volkswagen, the largest carmaker in Europe, fell more than 3%, and Frankfurt Futures on the S&P 500, which allow investors to trade the benchmark index before exchanges reopen in New York in the morning, slumped. On Friday, the S&P 500 dropped 2% on concerns that the Trump tariffs could recharge inflation and dampen consumer sentiment, dragging the index down to a Fifth weekly decline in the past 6 weeks. Investor anxiety has been reflected in other markets too. The price of gold hit another record high, trading at around $3,150 per ounce on Monday. Gold is often sought out by investors during times of turmoil. Traders also parked money in U.S. government bonds, pushing the 10-year Treasury yield below 42%. Trump has imposed tariffs to make imports more expensive in industries like automobiles, arguing that the trade barriers will spur investment and innovation in the United States. He has also used tariffs and their threat to try to extract geopolitical concessions from countries. He has further unnerved investors by saying he does not care about the fallout of his actions on markets or American consumers, who will have to pay more for many goods if import prices rise. Over the weekend, Trump ramped up the pressure, threatening so-called secondary sanctions on Russia if it does not engage in talks to bring about a cessation of fighting in Ukraine. The tactic echoes similar sanctions concerning Venezuela. He said last week that any country buying Venezuelan oil could face another 25% tariff on its imports to the United States. 2A Wisconsin Politics Musk gives out two $1 million payments to Wisconsin voters after state Supreme Court refused legal challenge. RAWSEP View. The Wisconsin Attorney General could not stop the two $1 million payments to Trump Musk Schimmel loyalists in the last days of an April 1, 2025 judicial election, which payments look suspiciously like bribery for votes for Brad Schimmel, the right-wing ally of Trump, and Musk. Liberal Judge Susan Crawford is Schimmel opponent, and Crawford is the best hope of Democrats because of her support for abortion rights, Wisconsin redistricting, and the opportunity for all Wisconsin voters to vote in elections free of corrupting bribery. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates of 501c3 nonprofit organization. CBS News March 30, 2025. Where the Wisconsin Supreme Court race stands, a unanimous Wisconsin Supreme Court on Sunday refused to hear a last-minute attempt by the Wisconsin Democratic Attorney General to stop billionaire Elon Musk from handing over $1 million checks to two voters, a ruling that came just minutes before the start of the rally. Two lower courts had already rejected the legal challenge by Democrat Josh Kaul, who argues that the Musk offer violates a state law. Wisconsin law prohibits offering anything of value to induce anyone to vote. Kaul argued in his filing, yet Elon Musk did just that, but the state Supreme Court, which is currently controlled 4-3 by liberal justices, declined to take the case as an original action. The court gave no rationale for its decision, taking the stage in Green Bay, wearing a yellow foam cheese head hat. Musk gave out $1 million checks on Sunday to two Wisconsin voters, declaring them spokespeople for his political group, noting the likelihood the state high court will take up redistricting that could give Democrats a chance at winning two additional U.S. House seats. Musk said the House majority is now razor thin, and if the Wisconsin Supreme Court is able to redraw the districts, they will gerrymander the district and deprive Wisconsin of two seats on the Republican side. Musk said then they will try to stop all the government reforms we are getting done for you, the American people. The Wisconsin tightly contested Supreme Court election, where ideological control of the court is at stake, is on Tuesday. The race with the assist from Musk has become the most expensive judicial election in American history, with more than $81 million in spending. Liberals currently hold a 4-3 majority, but 5 of the 7 justices of the court have endorsed a candidate in the race, raising potential conflicts for them. To hear the Musk lawsuit, the liberal justices of the court have endorsed Dane County Judge Susan Crawford, the Democratic-backed candidate. One of the conservative justices of the court has endorsed Waukesha County Judge Brad Schimmel, who also has the backing of Trump and Musk. Schimmel wore a Make America Great Again hat while campaigning Sunday. It is unclear whether Schimmel attended the rally. The Crawford campaign declined to comment on the Kaul legal filing, and Kaul had no immediate comment on the court order. Wisconsin law prohibits offering anything of value to induce anyone to vote. Kaul had argued in his filing, yet Elon Musk did just that. The Musk Political Action Committee used a nearly identical tactic before the presidential election last year, offering to pay $1 million a day to voters in Wisconsin and 6 other battleground states who signed a petition supporting the First and Second Amendments. A judge in Pennsylvania said prosecutors failed to show the effort was an illegal lottery and allowed it to continue through Election Day. Musk on Friday initially said in a post on his social media platform X that he planned to personally hand over $2 million to a pair of voters who have already cast their ballots in the race. Musk later posted a clarification saying the money would go to people who will be spokesmen for an online petition against activist judges, after first saying the event would only be open to people who had voted in the Supreme Court race. He said attendance would be limited to those who have signed the petition. Also on Friday, the Musk Political Action Committee identified the recipient of its first $1 million giveaway, a Green Bay man who had donated to the Wisconsin GOP and the conservative candidate in the court race, and who has a history of posting support for Trump and his agenda. The judicial election comes as the Wisconsin highest court is expected to rule on abortion rights, congressional redistricting, union power, and voting rules that could affect the 2026 midterms and the 2028 presidential election in the state. 2B Florida RAWSEP View. If Democrats win these 2 Florida House of Representatives seats, a new balance in the United States House of Representatives could occur, with Republicans 218 and Democrats 217. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates of 501c3 nonprofit organization. CBS News March 30, 2025. There will also be congressional elections held Tuesday in Florida that have attracted big fundraising. The Florida 6th District was vacated when National Security Advisor Mike Waltz joined the Trump cabinet, and the 1st District was held by former Rep. Matt Gaetz, who resigned to join the Trump administration as Attorney General. He eventually withdrew his name from consideration, but he had already vacated his seat. Both districts voted for Trump by 30 points or more, but Democrats have dominated fundraising headlines. 3A RAWSEP Brief Takes on the headlines. The New York Times March 30, 2025 joke that Jeffrey Goldberg did not tell because it would be a distraction from the truth. I did not know that an iPhone or any other smartphone could suck contacts onto your phone. Media literacy might deter teenagers from getting their information from stupid bro shows on the internet, and instead media literacy might steer teenagers to real sources of true facts to base their worldviews on, such as the increasingly popular Mados Touch and the Substack Letters from an American by Heather Cox Richardson. Bernie Sanders is not an oligarch, and far from it, and labeling Bernie Sanders an oligarch is an example of the crude Trumpian tactic of telling a big lie that is conveniently and stupidly just the opposite of the truth. So it is easy for liars to remember when questioned. Predictably, Trump economics creates inflation and costs of average American consumers, but Trump clings to failed ideas from the 19th century because those ideas were held by oligarchs of the day, the also charisma-free Orbans, Putins and Erdogans of the 19th century, if you will. It is no surprise that Trump does not care if tariffs raise car prices for average American voters. It is no surprise that Trump thinks there are illegal ways to seek a third term. It is no surprise that Musk is concerned about the Wisconsin Supreme Court race, because that is how Musk will win a court case before the Wisconsin Supreme Court if his bot Judge Brad Schimel is elected, instead of liberal Susan Crawford, who will protect abortion rights, allow redistricting that will allow true representation in Wisconsin, and protect democratic elections without allowing bribery to attain votes. The race for the Wisconsin Supreme Court is also a test case for Musk to see if an independent judiciary that is a check on the executive branch can be destroyed by Musk money bribes. The article about Canada breaks the heart of the editor of RAWSEP because Benjamin Franklin is revealed as also seeking annexation of Canada, and so the idealization of Benjamin Franklin as not only a groundbreaking scientist, but also a politician with flawed ideas is revealed, and Franklin is found to be only a person ahead of his time in many ways, including his belief in the scientific method, but in one way found wanting. Sob and carry on editor of RAWSEP. It is no surprise that Trump directly fired line prosecutors, but attention must be paid even in this era of dump all, or what Bannon mistakenly calls shock and awe. Do not confuse loads of stupidity with awing anyone. The simple truth is tanking the economy will sink and swamp all boats, even the yachts of the rich. Jailing Marine Le Pen has a certain allure in a French sort of way. This seems reminiscent of the near imprisonment of Trump in order to keep him from running for president a second time. So close, and yet a near miss. We could have a normal government in 2025. Is jailing Le Pen a French way to have a firewall against neo-Nazis similar to the firewall against AfD in Germany now? How tantalizing a concept. Can we really learn anything from the stupidity of the group chat except learn who should have been fired already? Musk is showing his immigrant roots by rooting for white South Africans to be given special treatment by Trump. 3B headlines. New York Times, March 30th. 2025 United States, 18 things you did not know your iPhone could do. Reviews by Wirecutter. United States, dozens of engaging ways to make media literacy meaningful to teenagers. The New York Times United States opinion, where oligarchy and populism meet. The New York Times United States stock sink as the Trump tariff threats weigh on confidence. The New York Times United States, Trump says he could not care less if auto tariffs raise car prices in the U.S. The New York Times United States, Trump talks signal leak and auto tariffs to NBC. The New York Times United States, Trump tells NBC News there are methods for seeking a third term. United States White House takes highly unusual step of directly firing line prosecutors. The New York Times Wisconsin Musk says destiny of humanity rests on Wisconsin judicial race. The New York Times Canada opinion, the endless doomed quest to annex Canada. The New York Times France Marine Le Pen could be banned from France election if she is found guilty of embezzlement. The New York Times Russia opinion, what rusting Russian tanks can teach us about the Pete Hegseth group. Chat. The New York Times South Africa mission. South Africa, how Trump is offering white Afrikaners refugee status. The New York Times 4A RAWSEP Brief Takes on the headlines. The Guardian, March 30th. 2025 Democrats are not particularly angry because the issues have not changed. However, now Democrats are legitimately and particularly focused on Elon Musk because the corruption leading to unnecessary pain for average Americans is out in the open, and protests can have a focus for the issues that Democrats need to point to. Through protest, Democrats are not acting as a circular firing squad against other Democrats, as Republicans are hoping Democrats know who is causing problems for the average American voter and can point that out through protest. The check on Trump actions through the courts is now also progressing, although too slowly. Musk interference in the Wisconsin Supreme Court race remains an issue because the bribery of offering $1 million to two individuals in the last days of the race and offering $100 for filling out a survey in the last weeks of the race remain as stains on the process of democracy during an election. 4B headlines. The Guardian, March 30th. 2025 United States, it reminds you of a fascist state. Smithsonian Institution braces for Trump rewrite of U.S. history. The Guardian, United States, Bernie Sanders and the AOC anti-oligarchy rally show us how to defeat Trump. Eric Blanc. The Guardian, United States, Democrats have never been so angry. Who will step up and lead them? Democrats. The Guardian, United States, Trump says there are methods for seeking third term in White House. The Guardian, United States, White House dinner of correspondence cancels appearance of the anti-Trump comedian. The Guardian, Yemen Goldberg dismisses the Waltz signal leak. Defense numbers do not just get sucked into other phones. Signal group chat leak. The Guardian.
One introduction. RAWSEP View. The United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only for home building and furniture building. For just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry, and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable, wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree. But it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen, and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM2.5, and PM2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut-down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lung, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom. The Eco-Design Wood Stove International Convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. RAWSEP View Purple Air PM2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary.